Hi everyone, welcome to Free Spanish Lessons. Lesson 9, Rules of Conjugation in Spanish, Part 2. Lección 9, Reglas de Conjugación en Español, Parte 2. As we can remember, in our last lesson, we were checking the terminations of the verbs for different tenses depending on the subjects for those verbs that end in ar, or ir. For example, in the simple present tense, we have amar, amo, temer, temo, partir, parto. All of them have the same terminations, but when you are changing the subjects, you see different terminations, but for these verbs it's more similar. For example, temes, partes, teme, parte, almost the same, but here you have temer, you have an E, here you have the E here, and here you have the I, and you have the I. So if we want to do the conjugation of the verb partir, we can copy a verb that ends in er and only change those parts where we need to put an I instead of an E. Let's check this on our Excel tool. We can come here to verbs, for example. Let's choose a verb that is ending on er, like comer. And let's copy the present tense of comer, insert the copied cell here. Then we are going to search and replace comer with partir. But comer, we need to remove er, the termination er, and in partir, ir, the termination ir, and after that we do the replacement, and you will check that all this line change from comer to partir. But here, as we took the verb that ends in er, we need to correct the terminations. For example, here the English part, to leave or to depart, let's leave it as to depart. And it's not parter, but partir, because the termination is ir, not er. Partir. Then let's check all the subjects here. Yo parto, it's the same, we can check in the presentation. Yo temo, yo parto. If we change these roots, the result will be the same. Temo, parto. Second one, temes, partes, teme, parte is the same. So the only change will occur when we are working with nosotros. We. Nosotros tenemos, nosotros partimos. Let's come here. Nosotros partemos, but since the verb is ending in ir, is partimos. Partimos, nosotras. Partimos. Let's check here. Partimos, then temen, parten is the same. Teméis, partís. Then it is not partéis, but partís. Here we change here, partís. Ustedes parten, vosotras partís. Let's continue checking. Ellos temen, ellos parten, ellas temen, ellas parten is the same. So we have finished the conjugation in present tense for a verb that ends in ir. So if we go back to the menu, we go to sentences. You can say they depart early. Ellos parten temprano. They depart early. So the subject is third person plural. It could be male or female depending on the context. And we choose depart. To depart, partir. In present tense, and the object would be early. So let's go to menu, let's go to objects, and let's input early, temprano. Let's go back to menu, general sentences. They depart early. Let's choose the object early. And it's an affirmative question. No, it's an affirmative sentence, not a question. Okay. Ellos parten temprano. They depart early. Let's say that they are going to depart in the afternoon. Then in that case, I can say they do not depart early. They do not depart early. In this case, I only need to set the sentence as negative and you will see that the no appears here. Ellos no parten temprano. They do not depart early. If I want to ask a negative question, let's say I suppose that they depart early and somebody's telling me the opposite, I can say, don't they depart early? Then do not they or don't they depart early? In this case, I said negative and I said question. As already explained in Spanish, I only have to put the quotation marks and change the intonation to know that I am asking a question. In this case, ellos no parten temprano? Don't they depart early? Okay, let's continue. If I want to make this sentence in past tense, for example, they departed early, they departed early, it's almost all the same elements. It's not negative, it's not a question, and the only thing that I should change here is the tense, from present to simple past tense, and I have an error here because I haven't input the information yet. So we can go back to verbs and let's fill the simple past tense for the verb to depart. So copy and insert copied cells. Now we are going to find and replace comer with partir. But we remove ER and IR, which are determinations, and replace all. Now we do the corrections. To eat, we are going to change to eat and put to depart. The infinitive is partir. The termination of this verb ir. Then we need to check in the table in which subjects it is not the same as with the verb that ends in er. So for the past tense, we have temer, temí, partí, temiste, partiste, temió, partió. As you can see, all the terminations are the same, so I don't have to do any more corrections. And we can go back to the menu, go to general sentences, and we already have the conjugation in past tense for the subject ellos, they. They departed early, ellos partieron temprano. If you come here, you see ellos partieron. Ellos partieron. If I want to use, for example, the subject she, ella, the conjugation of the verb would be partió, ella partió. And if I want to say she departed yesterday, I would say ella partió ayer. Let's go back to our tool here. Let's change the subject they for she and the object from early to yesterday. She departed yesterday, and I need to select third person, singular, female, she. To depart, partió. Ella partió. As you can see, the Excel table, by the use of a formula, is bringing the right conjugation of the verb here. Ella partió. And we need to change the object early. Then, as I don't have early in objects, I need to put it here. Early, no, yesterday. Yesterday, ayer. Let's go back to, I'm gonna freeze this pane here. Okay, I'm going back to the menu. I'm going to general sentences. She departed yesterday. I only need to choose yesterday here. Ayer. Ella partió ayer. For example, if that did not happen and you want to say ella no partió ayer, you say she did not depart yesterday. She did not depart yesterday, or she didn't. She didn't depart yesterday. Then all I have to do in Spanish is to set the negative, and you will see the no here. Ella no partió ayer. She didn't depart yesterday. Ella no partió ayer. Let's go back to the table and see the conjugation for I. I departed last month, for example. Then I choose first person, singular, male, yo, affirmative, yo partí, and let's change yesterday for last month. I departed last month, yo partí, and I need to inputs here in objects. Last month, el mes pasado. I departed last month, yo partí, and let's choose here last month. Yo partí el mes pasado. Okay, and now in future, we need to go back to verbs. And here in verbs, we need to copy the future tense, insert the copied cell, and again, change. It is already written that I am changing comer with partir, but only the roots. Replace everything, and here you have to depart, partir, and let's check in the table which are the subjects that change the termination. So for future tense we have temeré, partiré. You see there is an I here. Let's go back here. Future tense depart, it's, you don't say partiré but partiré. Partiré in the second person you, tú partirás, ella partirá. Tú partirás, ella partirá. Él partirá. He will depart. Ella partirá. She will depart. Nosotros partiremos. We will depart. Nosotras partiremos. We will depart. Ustedes partirán. You will depart. And check for vosotros. Partiréis. The same, only changing the I here. Partiréis. Ustedes partirán. Vosotras partiréis. Ellos partirán. Ellas partirán. Okay. Now that we have completed simple present tense, simple past tense, and future for this verb, now we can copy this verb for other verbs that end in "ir, and we will not need to do any more corrections, just the verb. So, for example, if we want to work with the verb to live, which in Spanish is vivir, you can copy the part that ends in "ir. I'm gonna filter it here. So, to the part, and for the present tense, copy, insert copied cells, and we are going to change partir with to live, vivir. Find, partir, remove ir, vivir, remove ir, replace all, and to live, vivir. Yo vivo, tú vives, usted vive, él vive, ella vive, and so on. Let's do the same for the past tense. Again, change and replace all. And let's change to live. And the last one in future, copy and insert. I am inserting what is inside this gray area because the formulas are bringing information from this gray area. If I copy and paste in this area in white, the problem is that will be outside the range and the formula will not be able to bring this information. So here, let's do the same replacements. Replace everything. And we are going to do the correction of the verb to live. Okay, now I have the conjugation of the verb to live in present, past, and future. Then I'm going here to general sentences, and I can say, for example, I live in Colombia. I live in Colombia. Okay, first person I, singular male, to live in present tense, yo vivo. And the objects, since I don't have the object Colombia here, or in Colombia here, I'm going to objects, in Colombia, en Colombia. Let's go back here, and you will see, I live in Colombia, yo vivo, and choose in Colombia. Yo vivo en Colombia. Then if you live in USA, I can say you don't live in Colombia. How do you say that? You do not live in Colombia. All I have to do is to set the sentence to negative. Usted no vive en Colombia. Tú no vives en Colombia. You do not live in Colombia. For example, if you want to ask if a group of people live in Europe, for example, you can ask, do they live in Europe? So, they is third person plural. Ellos, it is not negative, and it's a question. And we're changing in Colombia to in Europe. Let's go to objects. In Europe and Europa. Sentences. Ellos viven en Europa. Change in Colombia for in Europe. Ellos viven en Europa. That's how you ask. Or if you want to ask the negative question, for example, don't they live in Europe? don't they live in Europe? You say, ellos no viven en Europa. Now, if you want to make sentences in past tense with the verb to live, you can say, for example, she lived in Italy her whole life. She lived in Italy her whole life. Then it's third person, singular, female, ella. To live, it's okay, but in past tense, vivió. Ella vivió in Italy. Let's go back to objects. In Italy, en Italia. General sentences, ella vivió en Italia. Ella vivió en Italia her whole life. So the object is not only in Italy, but in Italy her whole life. So I can come back here to objects. In Italy, her whole life. En Italia, I'm going to expand this. En Italia, toda su vida. Let's come back here to general sentences. In Italy, her whole life. Then here you are. She lived in Italy her whole life. Ella vivió en Italia toda su vida. And you can say she will live in Amsterdam next year. She will live in Amsterdam next year. Then third person, female and singular is the same. Verb to live remains. In future, she will live, ella vivirá. In Italy, no. We change in Italy and put in Amsterdam next year. So let's go back to objects. In Amsterdam next year. En Amsterdam el próximo año. Let's go back to menu. Let's go back to general sentences. She will live in Amsterdam next year. Let's choose the object in Amsterdam next year. You need to expand this. Ella vivirá en Amsterdam el otro año, but it is not a question. So you set question to no. Ella vivirá en Amsterdam el próximo año. She will live in Amsterdam next year. Now you can see how important it is to know the conjugation of the verbs if we want to make sentences in Spanish in different tenses. Next lessons we are going to be working with other verbs and we will start working with other tenses as well. So I hope that you like this lesson, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe and share. Bye.